Okay, so 1160 has called me to find out what happened on the day in some Gregorian calendar known as January 2025. So, what happened is, as we were playing a game of 13-dimensional chess, whatever you want to call it, we have certain pieces, don't we, that do certain things on the board. So where everybody was being implied to be pawns and used for their pornographic game of prostituting ourselves and paying for it, we turned ourselves into ministers. So, but because we weren't operating within their rules, we were operating our own game with our own rules under universal law, and because we'd secured both sides of the chess set and the chessboard and the little lines that make the squares, the whole hypothesis, we could unpack any of these little characters, let's say, like little avatars, little chess pieces, and give them a script, minister them. That's what ministering means, isn't it? So when it got to the point where I've got them ringing up, screaming, "What are we doing? What can we do? What can we do? We need to do something." At that point, I sat and I said, "Okay, here's the game. Here's the chess set. Which piece shall we take out and play with today?" And there in the box that represents the equitable rights, let's say, that were being defined as such at that point, no longer, with that title on it that they were trying to use, there was another title, which was general. So we picked up the general and we gave him a script in exactly the same way that we picked up each one of these titles as we became secured on all the titles, and we rewrote their definition, what this little thing can do, what it represents. So, general was given general information about the Universal Law Community Trust, the Constitution, the assignment of consent. He was given a script and he went in there. We got the little actor to play the role of general then, who believed that he was the general, so that's why it works so well. And he was given the authority, that title was given the authority to act and speak our words from our script, from Universal Law Community Trust, and that is what he did. So we didn't give him an authority to act. We instructed him as the actor in the role, claiming the title in the box that represented general. He was given what to say, how to say it, when to say it. He was ministered and he spoke our words. And that's how we restored the right use of the definition of general. And it went along the lines of that he had a responsibility, not just to somebody who was being implied to be his own co-creation, who was actually doing the job that he was too impotent by the previous definitions that general had. He was given that role, general was given another set of definitions, and that he was obliged to perform those definitions and those deeds within that definition to go and minister the matter. So he went in there as Minister of Event 1160/3, and he spoke the words that he was given to tell whoever it was that he needed to tell what it was that had to be said, which was that really you had been doing the job that he was unable to do. And therefore, in order to settle the liabilities in his own box that he was creating and that he'd created and that he was passing on, and that the next co-creations were going to inherit if he didn't discharge what it was that he had helped to credit, then he can't call himself general. That was the definition of general. So he was able, the agreement, we entered into an agreement with us that that is what he would do. And if he didn't do what it was that he was given to do, then very sorry, but universal law has a funny way of catching up with people. I've found when I look back through all of the accounts of all of the people who thought that they could pull a fast one on universal law, now it can see everything. There's nowhere to hide. And so I wouldn't want to be standing in somebody's shoes who had done the dirty trying to use universal law to do it with. So that's what you can tell the general. And generally speaking, that applied to everybody. This is the reason why Donald Trump can't just go over the mountain and into Greenland and stick a drill in the ground. Because the people of Greenland know that that bit of the rock, which belongs to Hellas, the people who have claimed it to be Greenland cannot meet the burden, the litmus test, for the burden of proof that it's theirs, because it's not. And the titles that they use to claim it with are secured. So what have you got to claim, first of all, and what have you got to claim it with? You haven't got. You haven't got the right of use of either of those two things, which represented what we did with the Hellenic Republic and Her Majesty's government. Any consent that's not given freely nullifies the contract. End of. So, and that's all coming out this week. We've seen the HMCTS, so we did unsecured HMCTS versus secured HMCTS, smash them together in the Royal Courts of Justice, and it went from HMCTS to HM and CTS with an and sign, and then it went to CTS on the day that they call Wednesday. So what that means is it's just a tribunal. It's just a tribunal service where you can go and do your arbitration, but it means that you can no longer be implied. It can't be combined. It's not combined anymore. They were using, they tried to make legal lawful, didn't they? By giving it the protection of the crown so that they had the immunity that the crown gave them by claiming that they were the sovereign state instead of the people. And therefore, we could all be criminals, incriminated, and presumed to be guilty. And we had to prove that we were innocent. And so that's what universal law did. So getting into who got what out, at the same time that that was going on, you were already being released. So all I needed to do really was tick the boxes of the minds of the people that thought that there was something else that needed to be doing, that needed to be done that wasn't already being taken care of. All they did is showed me their doubt that they had, that they needed something, that they, one, needed to add to it, and two, that they thought that this was a good idea. And so when it comes to people saying, well, it only happened because of this, or prove your claim, prove it. So in your situation, I would be going and saying, can you show me the script that you were given? Because I can. And I will. So that, and if you didn't do that script, then either way, you see the rock wins, doesn't it? Because if you didn't say that script, that's why the reason you were getting out anyway, because you were already saying what it was that we gave the general the opportunity to meet the minister at that level. So whether it was a general or whether it was a pawn or whether it was a minister, it's the words and the deeds that somebody does that counts. As your titles are irrelevant, and that's what we did at the point where they'd come and they said, after all the time that they tried to get us to use these fictional titles, and we wouldn't, and that's when they'd come and they said, okay, well, we're going to change your name to what the one that you want to use, which is what? which is the one that you like, the one that you want to use. Well, do you mean minister and then the one that you can't use, you now want me to give you the right of use of it? And now, because I know that you want to use it, I'm not going to give you the right of use of it. I can't be much of a minister, and as the people have only been using titles to hide their dirty deeds behind, then I've got no need for a title either. I'm just going to strip myself of this hypothesis of titles and equity and blah, 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 blah. If I've done something wrong, hit me with it. Who am I now? Me. How do you spell it? Like it fucking sounds. That's it. So suddenly at that point, there's no chessboard, there's no black squares, white squares, there's no minister or general, there's none of it because we stripped it. And that's why we removed the hypothesis of the immunity that they had believed that they had got the protection from, which was apparent when we said we're Eporagos and the policeman goes to kiss your hand. That's how they fucked people's minds up. And the burden of the liabilities that it is that's created is what we're talking about discharging as a family unit now. So open the box with the title on it that you all think is your name, that it's now been proven to not have any value whatsoever, which is why just because you were born in a country doesn't mean that you're a citizen anymore. You have to apply to be a citizen. You have to make a contract with the state. Why anybody would do that is beyond my comprehension, because that's what we've all been getting away from and retiring our consent for being applied for. And still people can't see their way through this. That I obviously don't, I either do think that I need to have those things that I've been told that I have, which means that I have to make a contract with the corporate state and exercise my right to do what? Commit to act like a corporate entity. That's it. Do you want to stop acting like a corporate entity? We asked everybody. Yes. Okay, here you go then. Have some of this. Oh no, I can't do that. I need to do this. They're coming to threaten me, or they're coming from me out of my house, or they only came to throw you out of your house because you put yourself back in the box and claimed the legal fiction. Or you didn't put Minister and Van in the boxes at the time that it was supposed to be. But for all of the people that did do that, they're the reason why, and stuck to it, they're the reason why they can't stick a fucking drill in Greenland. And the reason why the funding that was there, that was all made, the profits and everything that they can't use because they can't use COVID in claims, is now being returned to the communities that it was being extrapolated from as funding. So you can now go and get this funding like we talked about on the other Zoom. But you don't take it in slave tokens. You're back in the box. So, and that's what they want you to do. People sending me links and stuff about, oh, you can put your IBAN number in here. And you go, yeah, you can fund JP Morgan anytime you like. We've all learned that. So passing on these burdens now, when we are supposed to have discharged more, why would we want to continue to do that? People come in and saying to other people, you haven't changed anything. Not in your books. Not because you didn't pick the tools up that you were given and use them. And for those that did, there is now the introducing kindness credits into my community as a project, with a project proposal. Go and project it into your community. And here's the funding, and let them tell you that you can't. Because the other way, if you can't do that, then the system that they're actually relying on, which is this charge and refund, or charge and retract, or attack and defend, they haven't got the ability. If you don't accept it, they haven't. But this is where you starve it off completely. The energy is still held and banked inside the currency that is fiat. You go in there, you give them the legal fiction title, so they can use to refund you back all of this in slave tokens, for all of the things that they charged you for and charged our communities for. And just the same way that they would have to pay repatriations or restore a place that they bombed in these countries that they've been at war with. This is their game. Destroy and rebuild, destroy and rebuild. That's all they fucking got. So, getting dragged back down into the swamp with titles or misinformation or unsubstantiated claims. If anybody comes and wants to make a claim, you don't defend your claim, that claim. You can't prove it. You prove you're making the claim. You think vaccines are a good idea? Prove it. And for every bit of proof you bring me, I will show you something that rebuts that. So it all comes down to the consent and the choice. The right to choose, the right to consent, is back in our hands. And just like the right to grow, don't let it become the right to capitalistic growth as an interpretation. And it's down to each and every single one of us to make sure that if somebody's going to misrepresent what it is that you meant or what it is in the general's mind, let him think that. Let him think whatever the hell it is he wants to think. Let everybody think whatever it is the hell they want to think. But don't come and force your belief on another. That's it. And until the child grows up to reach a certain age where the consent is counted, which is why they made you all dead at 7, so you never got to that point, then that's gone. Then and only then can the child, who's now considered to be an adult, they can choose which organisation, which community would I like to go and live in. Would I like to go and live in this community over here that has done what it said it would do and discharged everybody's liabilities and they're growing food and supporting each other? I'll go over there and I will give my assignment of my consent to this community. It won't be just assumed that because I'm standing in a place on the rock that has been implied to be a community or a county or a town or whatever by somebody, that it means that I'm automatically obliged to be implied to be a subject or a citizen of it. No, so it's a double-edged sword for people at the minute, this thing that we're going through, because literally walking on the event horizon perimeter and deciding now what is it that we want to project into this. We're seeing all of the bombs and weapons and war and that was a show. We've got something else to put in there, and so really people should have been putting the rock in the pocket and they should have all been ready for this. But we had other things to do because there was other things to do. We had to restore universal law and evict the occupiers, and now we can get to it, which is what's coming next. So I just wanted to go through a few things with you. I mean, it's the most extraordinary events have happened in the last few days that there's just so much to talk about, really. I don't know where to start. The reason why the people are getting out on the IPP who are on indefinite prison sentences, this is what we got them to do. We got them to lay charges against us, but they wouldn't tell us what the charges were for. So you don't know how long you're in there for. You don't know what you've done. You don't know when you're getting out. You don't know anything. That's indefinite prison sentence. And we did it to the degree that we won't obviously contract even to communicate, because when you communicate through the prison, you have to sign a compact, it's called, not a contract, compact. And obviously underneath the page that you think you're signing to say that you don't mind your data and the telephone calls being recorded, and that's part of the deal. But there's, I don't know, 20, 30 pages underneath there. Oh, what am I signing? What's the rest of it? Oh, no, you can't have a look at that. Oh, if I can't have a look at that, I can't consider what it is that I'm agreeing to. You're going to take my consent off the front page and imply it to the other 20, 30 pages. That's fraud in the contract. Oh, so whatever fucking name it is that you've got me here by, it's irrelevant now because you're not only asking me to use it to make a phone call with, to exercise my right to communicate with somebody through, you're also getting me to agree to stuff that you weren't obscuring what it is that I'm saying yes to. So consent now, it has to be specific. It can't be expressed or assumed. Sorry, it can't be assumed. It has to be expressive. It has to be explicit. It has to be unambiguous. And this has been set out in a case using wills, probate, and legacy as the key words. Whereas the acknowledgement of something does not imply acceptance. So this was the other part we had to abolish by doing what we did. So this is where acquiescence comes in or came into it. It's gone now. So just because, so I was going to lay a charge against you, and I'm just not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to imply that there is a contract that I can't produce and I don't need to, just because you said what your name is. So that was the contract. That's gone. The use of the birth certificate as form of ID has been proven to be exactly that. You can't use it for ID as just a piece of paper, and it's got no accounting for anymore. It's no longer implied to be a bond, or that's why the bond markets have gone tits up. It can't be used or implied to be used in ab column or column law hypothesis where they're claiming your ions at that level, which is why we did the ab column, uh, which is the equivalent of an application from feudalism. So whether somebody helped in example, whatever part that we played in all of this, and at whatever degree it was that anybody took it to, this is what we've got rid of, which is the acknowledgement, just by you acknowledging it. So here I come now, I say that you're charging you, I put you in the cell, and then I stick a notice through the door to say that you've got to go to court, but it doesn't tell you what court. So now, if you had acknowledged that and even attempted to defend yourself, or even gone to the court, that would have, or even come out of your cell to go and have a shower, could and was being implied to have been the consent to the rest of it, just like the piece of paper that's got your consent on one page, being implied to be consenting to the conditions on the other 20, 30, 40 pages. So this case relating to the solicitors who would normally have been able to just access this 57,000. Have I told you about this case already? Nobody in the echo chamber is falling asleep. So there's this case that this Wanton Chicks was billing for 53,000 to expired lady's estate. And it hadn't got a provision in the will for the firm's directors to render professional charges for the job. So the residuary beneficiary made an order for an assessment of those bills. So don't just think about this as one woman's estate. This is the corporation behaving as a trust, making claims against your estate for the admin fees that they were lining their pockets with. And as there was no mechanism for the firm, firm corporation, to presume claim the rights to render the charges to the estate, they pulled out a copy of a contract that she was going to sign but didn't, and so that obviously was invalid. And these cases are set up to show the differences now between what it was that they were doing and what it was that they were not doing. Have I talked to this about the right to be forgotten? And in the place that used to trade as Hellenic Republic, you've got the right to be forgotten now, which is all very well because we can't remember who we are. So they've used people who have had cancer as an exemplification to say that people who have recovered from cancer, it's no longer something that you're terminal illness anymore. So you don't have to disclose it if you are going to get yourself reinsured, which you also have to call it reinsurance now, instead of just having surety. Sure that you're covered. Common law, District of Columbia, and about the earthquake. Did I tell you about that? So we had common law, District of Columbia.
Yep,
No,
yep,
did
you did. Yeah, you mentioned it.
So, and then did I tell you about all of the mayors in the place?
No, that was the last one. The earthquake was the last one, and then we're talking now. So that was the last thing you had mentioned doing.
So,
These news, no, haven't heard of that.
right, so because they're blaming the fire. So every year we have something called controlled burning. And what they've done is they haven't controlled it in certain places, or they've controlled it to specifically target certain places so that all the use of the public services can be used in the same postcode for these boxes where they didn't have indemnification from us before. So where they've taken action against us and not been able to indemnify it, they've had to target these specific places, whether it's decoupling of a train or a derailing of a train in the post office box square, longitude and latitude of where we were when we filed the universal writ, which is what happened yesterday. These are staged events in order for them to be able to, one, give themselves a reason for projecting the need for a government on us or public service in the first place. Hey guys, look, that's what we really do. We're really heroes over here. Look, please contract with us and support us and pay council taxes to us. And this is what we're doing with your money now. And we're not spending it on funding with Donald Trump anymore. But while we're all using the slave tokens that we are. So anyway, they've overblown, let's call it, or out of control burning, control to target people's properties to hide the evidence in some instances, which we laid as part of the claim inside the epicratia, has come out that the mayors had set themselves up with companies, which were then the council then gave these companies the rights to burn the land and put in these windmills under the heading of green energy. That had gone, we see, to the point where what they were doing is they were destroying so much of the rock to put these windmills in, and then see the damage that they caused outweighed the profit. I'm sure that they've been caught in the act, flagrante death. They've actually used those words, which is the same as what you would say if you were caught having sex. They supposedly have not installed these windmills and the movement of the electricity that they're generated by the pylons properly. They've hit the ground, and just so happened that somebody was there and caught them, which was us, really, in the act with their own paperwork, with the And it's the trail of how they got it. It's not so much what it is they were doing. It's the in this instance, it's how did it even get to be there in the first place? And this is how, through the corporations and these corrupt people occupying these roles, that they could then launder the need, the community, make a load of profit out of it. That's gone, and the one of them's already been arrested, not just arrested, but arrested, charged, and remanded for their part in this. So it's no longer just pass the buck. The immunity is not there anymore that would have protected them. There's no elite boys club like the Masons that the police can be involved in, or the courts can be involved in now, or any of the ministers and any of the public servants have to disclose whether they are part of the cult or not. And so that's when they say that things haven't changed, the people just aren't looking. You sent me something about how they shut down Parliament in 2 seconds. What was that?
So they sang a song, and as soon as the song finished, the speaker said, "Okay, that's it, done. Thank you, bye bye." Everyone left Parliament.
Wow.
I
Why is
Can you
because
hear
it was
me?
universal? Yeah, why was the song relevant?
No, it was the anthem.
What, so they just went in there and sang the national anthem?
Yeah, and then the speaker wound up the proceedings, and everyone left Parliament.
And then they dissolved it.
Yeah, that's it.
What, that's it
They
forever?
passed two bills in 15 minutes before that, so no discussion or anything. It just bye bye.
Because they've run out of time. That's it. So yesterday, we've got Wednesday, forget the days since we had the mind-blowing solar eclipse. So we all went up to this big hilltop to have a look at the eclipse, and it's brilliant blue, not a cloud in the sky. And just as it starts, these two clouds, one from the left of it, one from the right of it, smashed together and just completely obliterated it, right? So I carried on taking pictures anyway because it's quite spectacular with the rays of the sun and the different shades of the blue that it was escaping from this absolute toxic dump of clouds. And my screen went white at one point. I thought I'd broken my phone. Then it's taken two very obscure black pictures. I'll send them to you. And then I opened it up, let it cool down, and then I opened it back up to try to take some more. And when I've got back and zoomed in on them all, it is incredible what really I was on about. I made all these pinhole cameras, right, to prove my point that we were living in a box and it's just got a pinhole in the firmament and the light shining in it. So I've gone and collected all these boxes up and the missing. And because there was a few of us going up there, so I thought we're better off one each. And there in front of us on this cloud, the cloud became the screen. And these faces and all of this stuff going on in these clouds is absolutely mind blowing. Everybody who's seen them is just like, wow, that's even better than seeing the real eclipse. I'll have to send you them. They're absolute. I mean, I've sent them, right?
You sent me the pictures, yes.
And have you zoomed in on them?
Sorry, what?
You need to zoom in and see what you can see on those clouds and those.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't because I was just busy over the last few days. So I'm gonna see it now. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to focus a lot on
Yeah,
what there
have a
is
look
over
at
there. I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll
that.
respond to that.
So the next, so that was the end of totalitarianism, and it's like the big shutter gone down on the universal lie for that was the last sequence. that they had stolen 96 years from us in time, and we released that information. So I've had 5 heat waves for the 5 years that they haven't been able to count, of the 5 summers. Since they counted one, as in the day that Jesus was supposed to have resurrected himself or whatever. But so 2026 Gregorian years, each year they've stolen, each year they've stolen 1 moon off you. Each 10 years they've stolen 10 moons off you. And so in every 13 years, you've got another year, which they had banked. You've got another cycle of 13 moons for each year it is. So when you add all of that time up between now and the day that we started counting one in their system, this is why we did what we did with Alpha Omega on the 23rd of the 3rd, 23. And that reset and took into account all of the time that they'd banked. And that's why they wanted us to do 96 days, 96 days, 96 days, 96 days in all of their hypothetical quarters. So, because in fiat, it's 10 to the power of 10. So, I know that sounds completely insane, but really it's 21, 22 if we add the time. If we take off the time, we're just taking 96 years off 2026, and we're back to 1930 again, which is what they've really been doing with the UCC, which was the silent weapons, secret wars, silent weapons, with the use of the paper tiger and legal instruments, so that they could. That's the end of it. And to try to carry forward something out of that once upon a hypothetical shitty time, this is what they thought they had to do. They thought they haven't got anything else in their imagination other than this. So we get a stateless vessel. So the problem with stateless vessels, people who are stateless, don't know that nobody's got the jurisdiction of them. So nobody takes the responsibility for them at the same time. But just because you're stateless doesn't mean that you are incompetent at taking care of yourself. So now we've got another fake story. Haven't had a look at the name of this ship yet. But in the same way that they were floated the Odysseus of the seas on the 7th of October 2024, because they needed to indemnify themselves using a fake story about how this ship had been stuck in the dock for 2 years and they couldn't get it moving because it wouldn't contract, and then they implied that there had been a contract and consent to float their vessel and the indemnification thereof. Here's one that has been floating around the water near Oman. It's supposed to have 850, it's caused a leak that's supposed to be 850 or 830 thousand square miles, which with enough oil on it that could fill 500,000 NFL stadiums. These are all key, like, notice tokens. We call them breadcrumbs. So they're sending out the message of what it is that they're using in order to try to indemnify themselves. They couldn't use the football. They wanted to go and indemnify themselves off the back of the profits of football by privatizing our own game, and everybody who played it, highlighting just what it is that they have been doing, to what degree each one of these games is fixed. All of the sport is corrupt, and they were operating as a cartel in order for them to be able to fund what it was they were really doing, which is stealing the resources while we all weren't looking, and enslaving us all. So this ship, first of all, didn't have a crew. They said it's hit some rocky bits, hit the rock, and then they say that the crew sounded the alarm when they heard an explosion on the 22nd of June. So we've got 22626. and that they are going to try and indemnify themselves of American football now instead, and then go and try and keep themselves going by paying for the cleanup mission that they. It's just an exemplification of them creating the liabilities and patting themselves on the back and saying, "Oh, look, isn't it a good job we're around to clean up the mess that wouldn't exist if we weren't around?" And so all of this has come out. I wanted to go back on the indefinite prison sentences because it's really important. We've all been indefinitely imprisoned, and while we're all running around saying, "Oh yeah, it's a great job, but a great idea, lock everybody up, lock them all up, lock them up, lock them up, just throw away the key." That includes everybody. So then they come to you and they put you inside for a misdemeanor. So you've got all of these prisons going to shut the women's prisons down. They're going to release the non-violent women. We'll have one woman's prison. You can't lock women up in Wales. Did you know that?
No,
Not allowed to
didn't
lock
know that.
women up in
That's
Wales.
good.
Yeah, yeah. And what they were doing is that's why the English and the Welsh courts were one thing, so that they could bring the people that really they didn't have no right to lock them up, try them in an English and Welsh court, and then send them to a prison in the place of Gloucester. And so they're shutting those down, and they're going to use those spaces, shut them down for putting women in, because the prison's full of non-violent women who, for various reasons, some of them don't even know why they're in there. So, what the cohabitation. So, because the contracts, so what we've been doing, we're busy with the divorce contract now. So, with the marriage contract. So, if I haven't got a contract, if I've got a contract, my contract is with Lloyd's, isn't it? If I've got a birth certificate, it's with Lloyd's of London. Who's got everybody who's got a birth certificate or uses a birth certificate, let's say, to go and get another piece of ID with, I was created a contract with Lloyd's of London to indemnify them. So this has been showed. So the questions are now that you need to be asking people is to asking with the fraud squad, for example. But there is where we were going and we're saying about need to go to the police station and report yourself for fraud. Now, because that was we needed to get them to arrest you, and we needed them to put the charge against us, and that's what we did. So now the roles are reversed and the laws restored. You can now contact the fraud squad, and you can say the truth is that somebody's been committing fraud with your name, which is your name. It's something that you have defined yourself with. And let's get to the nitty gritty about whether you have got the right of use of that or not. And you have all of the rights reserved while you use it. You don't have any rights because you use it. Your rights are already there, as you know. And so it's where do you decide to put those rights? Who do you give the right of use of to your data, for example? Did you give the right of use of your data to Lloyd's of London, and Lloyd's of London went and shared it with all of its other little corporates, masks of different companies? So whether you bank with Barclays and Monzo, whatever, you've used legal fiction title to get the bank account with in the first place, to get the ID with. So you've used the birth certificate, which there is the contract. But that can't be presumed anymore. So because when we get to the divorce box, the marriage financial remedies have called themselves here now. So you can't give me a remedy. Financial remedy is not going to cut it, really, is it? If somebody has gone out of their way to be what is considered to be domestic abusive, to be abusive domestically, and bully you into a position where you're too scared to answer the door because you think the bailiff's coming, sent by your ex because they've used all of the tools that they can afford to use because they didn't disclose to the court the truth about their financial standing, and because they made a promise to leave you penniless and evict you, and that's not what you said when you entered into a contract with me at the altar, is it? Or the registry office. So you said that you'd love, honour and obey me, didn't you? And whatever it is that you agreed to, in sickness and in health. And now, because, you know, I need some new hips or whatever, you haven't. It is a breach of contract to just kick you to one side and say you've got no use for me anymore. So if that is that, we can see who is the beneficiary and all of that, and who thought it would be a good idea to do that, and why, with the Norman invaders coming over here and enslaving the women and raping them and then getting them into contracts, and that's how you end up gathering all of the asset that comes with the dowry of the women, and then you can just get a divorce and throw them in the tower, can't you? Put them in the street. Or you can send the bully boy bastards to get them to vacate a property, for example, so it's easy for you to then reoccupy, and you got what it was that you set out to do in the first place with your malintention hidden behind something called the marriage contract. So the double-sided knife edge of this is that we haven't got a contract, and so because we haven't got a contract, they're now saying, running around, and look at this for a spin, right? So people who cohabit didn't have the same rights as if you were married. Then that all changed, and then we had common law wife or partner or whatever. And now, because it's proven that whether you got a contract or not, if one of you is in breach of it, it's no amount of money is going to make that okay if you try to bully somebody and terrorize them and do it under the heading of legal. It was legal. I went to the court, I got a legal piece of paper, and I can threaten you that if you don't do what it is that I tell you, I can send you to prison. That's gone. And so, and it's worse than threatening to do something, because you're actually doing it. It's not a threat at that point. If your threats cause somebody to in the way that they live, for example, then you've been enforcing your beliefs on them, and that's unlawful. So now they've turned around and said anybody who's cohabiting, they have the same rights, but everybody who's cohabiting is saying, well, actually, there's a reason why we don't want these obligations and proposed, and we're not married. So we've got a state marriage, right? State enforced marriage conditions. And what they've had to do is they've had to say, look, here is Crown Corporation's offer. If you want to be a citizen and part of this and pay your taxes towards these services, you can. If you don't, go over there and do whatever it is that you want to do. There's the line to never object. And you can opt out. So what the is, it will be assumed you want to have union that you might have.
You're breaking up a bit.
Any union that you might have with anybody, any agreement, you can include the state if you want, and the obligations and performances. You know, like when you go to company's house and you can put in you can use their template. So there's a template you can use, and if you don't want it to apply to your union, your agreement, you can opt out of it. There is your right to contract or not contract with the state now, right there in front of you. So anybody who says to us, we haven't changed anything, you tell me when you could do that. You tell me when you had the right to restore you to grow. You tell me when you could pass these imaginary borders without any ID like we've done. So for those people who don't see it, they're never going to see it. And for them, they'll stay in that slavery spiral. And you've just got to be there. It's about building a bridge, not getting on the fucking merry-go-round to go around with them. I'll come around with you for a couple of revolutions, but there's an exit point and we're getting off. And anybody who wants to get off there, they can, but we're not getting back on again. That's it. We've said this all along. When we get to this point in the universal pattern of universal law, whatever it is that you're doing at this point, and whatever it is that you're chasing after still, whether you're enslaved by a free or not, that's what you'll be in then for, let's call it another 33,000 cycles of Gregorian time. It doesn't really mean anything anyway. So, people who, there's a saying that these teachers and indoctrinators are about accept the things you cannot change and have the courage to know the difference. But I was just like, I'm not saying that. What do you mean? Accept the things you cannot change? What's the point in being here? Oh, you always want to do something different, don't you? Why is not what we're all doing good enough? Well, look at you, you're fucking happy. I mean, there's evidence about these things with the vaccines now. Have you not all learned you're all not wearing a mask because of us? That's it. This is at the point where everybody took their masks off. That was the restoration of rights to breathe restored. And those who want to disregard that or not consider that or not even consider the people that did do that for them with any value, well, they're not relevant. People can't see that for what it is and acknowledge what it is. Doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It didn't. Whether you acknowledge it or not, or whether you live your life in denial or not, you're not wearing a mask, you fucking malaka. And it's not because of anything that anybody else did. We know what it took. And so whatever else went on after that point, it was all, these are just little parts of the same web that we found ourselves in. And the pinnacle point of it was unsubstantiated claim. That's it. So you either live on unsubstantiated life or you don't, and you keep your energy instead, and you're able to see whatever it is that you don't know staring down from you with the flipping clouds. So we were laughing yesterday about the simplicity in this. We got rid of the chief constable, another chief constable gone in Cheshire, just because that now gross misconduct in the public office that's an indefinite prison sentence. They didn't bother to give themselves a tariff on that one, and so they're all retiring before they get prosecuted.
How convenient.
Hey?
How convenient. For everyone. It works out well for everyone. How convenient is that? How convenient.
Oh, well, how convenient that he's allowed to retire before he gets prosecuted for gross misconduct. And how convenient that the prisons are full as well, so that they can't go in there. But don't you worry, we've got a solution. We're already ready for you this time. That's it. So Donald Trump thinks he's going to go and stick a drill in Greenland. And you know what? The minute that he does, he's barratry. He's barratryed himself. So either way, we win. And you can tell the general that he's not on his own. He's not the only one that we've had to pull out the box and give the scripts to. That's how we got rid of Keir Starmer and people claiming to be Prince. And we're one step away from Abcolom and turning us into a democracy. So tell General, so just watch this space and see. And if you can't see what's gone, did he not acknowledge the junta party? Can he not even see that?
Yeah.
Huh?
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, whatever it is, they don't know. Anybody who says that or something about what is it Differ, tell me what it is you think it is before you say it is what it is. You don't know what the fuck it is. What is it?
No, like it's so simple. It was exemplified that 20,000 uh, children basically come together for a certain purpose of education and for the designation of a certain title holder through a set, something that was created out of someone saying, calling or claiming that some part of the population is cockroaches. I mean, if you can't see a script right there laid out for you as to how easy it is for you to change things, and you still believe that you cannot change anything,
But
then
even
great.
that, I'd say
Then,
to him, I'd say to him, look, so give him the credit for it. Then that's what I'm saying. If he thinks it
But I
doesn't, that you
do.
can't change,
Yeah,
no, so if
but
he
I
thinks
do.
that you can't change anything, why did he go down there?
Mm, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
well, so
No,
we
it's okay
always
though.
said we don't care. We
Meaning each
don't.
to their own perception, I guess, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, yeah. But it's so clear now. Everything's right in front of you. You
So
know what I'm saying?
clearly now,
Yeah.
but we haven't had any clouds for a
And
long
and
time.
and the last bit of the spiral that's left before it just it just basically there's going to be an eruption of an amazing frequency then everywhere. So yeah, just that last one
Um,
is going
and
to imagine how much more they're going to do now. Imagine for everyone to absolutely wake up to the truth. Imagine, yeah, of course you can. I'm just saying out loud as to what will happen now after this.
so I've got
Like,
this. I think so. Here we go. So you ring him up and say, "Hello, hello. I think my name or account has been used fraudulently." Go straight to fraud squad because you used the word fraudulently. Who has been using your account for fraud? PayPal, Lloyds, the banks, NHS, police, water company, electricity, gas, whoever. And that's it, really. And that's who you're going to report now. So, because the public services work for you and universal law is restored, our job is done, and the people who are there now have to do their job. Otherwise, they get their P45 and they don't get their golden handshake and they don't get to pass go. It just completely dissolves. We were asking what you're asking for. If they want what they want to try to do when you do this, is they want to try to make out that okay, you're responsible for it. It's your account. You've been given the details away. Well, that's what I need. I am asking for the assignment of consent. Where is the verification code between me and the merchant and the interloper? Whether that's the bank or PayPal or the company that you've used to put your bank details in there to pay for these transactions. Because I know that people have been trying to do get their money back and get the refunds back. And this is what they've been trained to do. The AI that's reading the people, if you're lucky enough to get somebody who answers the phone at the fraud squad, then you will, which we'll do now because they're all fully funded, fully costed, fully funded, as you hear the politicians say, for the right things. So when you're asking for the data in relation to where PayPal or the bank or the party that's done the transaction got my consent from for these transactions, what checks or verifications or approvals are granted, and from where? Where is the assignment of my consent from everything? Right? That's the beginning and the end of it all. The very first thing that we ask for in the courts, we know you haven't got it, and now you're right at the point where was it assumed to have been granted? Now you're back on the other side of the Russian roulette table, let's say, and you're the one holding the bullets. So this is I mean, I made that metaphorically before anybody says that I've been going around shooting people with bullets, and the bullets I shoot people with are truth bullets, because that's what they tried to say that I said about the bailiffs having rocks in their head. Oh, she's a threat to the community because she said that she was going to throw rocks at the bailiff's head. No, I said you've got petrified thinking. So that's it. That's it. That's all it ever was. Where is an assignment of consent? Everybody's saying, what do I do when I go to the court work? They always say, where's my assignment of consent? Right. That's it. That's why you don't need a website. You don't need to go and pay people loads of money and do a test. You just need to learn to say those words. And whenever you ever get stuck at any time, you can just say, out of the blue, my contract is with Lloyd's. That's it. And it's up to them. Either they accept that your contract is with Lloyd's and they perform like they should because you just said that you've given your assignment of consent to Lloyd's and they're saying that this is what this means, which is now redefined, that they have to perform their obligations to restore your rights to you using the same process and as much enthusiasm as they did when they used it in reverse against you. And that is it. Oops, where have you gone? Are you still there? Hello?
Yep. I'm here.
Okay, I don't know how to get in there. Back onto that.
Back onto what?
Oh, there you are. Right, okay, so I can just stop this.
Mm-hmm.